Okay, what do you guys think about free speech?
I think that free speech is very important. It's so important that it's in the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights, and it's very vital to our country that people should have the right to say what they believe.
I also think that free speech is incredibly important. I think it's abhorrent that it's not just in the Constitution, that it's in the First Amendment to the Constitution, but that speaks more to issues with the Founding Fathers than with freedom of speech.
So what do you think of free speech when it comes to fake news? Do you think fake news should be allowed in free speech, even if it's spreading misinformation?
Absolutely. I think that we can look to John Stuart Mill's dead dogma argument. If you don't allow false speech, then ideas will never be challenged, and we'll forget why the idea plays such an important role.
I would agree with that. I think if it's knowingly a lie, then it doesn't rest on that much evidence, and if it doesn't rest on that much evidence, the marketplace of ideas is going to quickly sweep that under the rug, and it's not going to be as mainstream as other opinions.
Okay. What news medias do you guys regularly use and view?
That's a great question. I watch a lot of YouTube news, like Wall Street Journal, CNBC,
Yeah.
Instagram Reels.
Instagram Reels. Yeah, honestly, I get most of my news from social media, which I know is not the most reliable source, but it is increasingly prevalent.
Yeah, it's become more mainstream than the mainstream news, and now I think a majority of people get their news from social media.
So, do you think that social media feeds try to push an agenda when it comes to fake news, or when it comes to news in general, depending on what platform it's on? Like, say, formerly Twitter X, or Instagram/Meta Facebook?
I feel like a lot of social media companies, their goal is just to make the most money, so they will promote whatever is the most controversial take because it'll get the most clicks. But then you look at companies like formerly Twitter X, and you can see that the owner Elon Musk has been pushing an extremely conservative, extremely nationalist agenda through that social media platform.
Yeah, I think social media, it's just a reflection of the people who run it, and all people have biases, so I think certain outlets like X do have a more right-wing push because their leadership is more right-wing, but I don't think there's an equivalent on the left, at least to my knowledge. It's very, very left.
I know Reddit has a lot of radical leftists, but Reddit also has straight up Nazis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What about Tumblr? Do you think Tumblr has any?
oh yeah, Tumblr is so far left. Oh my god.
Is it
my
really?
my Tumblr feed is insane.
I've never been on Tumblr.
I love Tumblr.
Okay.
Duality of man. A man that's never been on Tumblr, a woman that was a man and loves Tumblr.
Okay, this one's kind of a controversial question, but what are your political views?
You can go first.
I can go first. I'm right of center. I'm a registered Republican.
Okay. I am so very far left. I'm an anarchist. I'm registered with the Democratic Socialists of America. I haven't yet chosen a caucus within that organization.
But you're on the board of the organization here.
I am currently running for a position on the board. I started off with an interim position, but that's a whole different thing. Oh my god.
Do you think people who are politically opposite of you or politically different from you are out to get you?
No.
I mean, in my case, not only the current administration, but many administrations in the past have declared socialism to be a trait of one who's an enemy of the state. But it's not even necessarily like an opposite thing. Like I know a lot of previous Democrats have, and I know that the political climate of America is changing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say people are out to get you. I think most people, especially in politics, are doing what they think is the best. That's where their beliefs come from, and no one is sitting there like, oh, I hate these people, so I'm going to destroy them. They're doing what they think is best, and whether you agree with that or not, they don't, like, actively want to kill you, if that makes sense.
Do you think that fake news has any role to play on people becoming more politically violent? Or, like, social media in general becoming, like, having people become more politically violent?
I think maybe not violent, but definitely more extreme.
Yeah.
Because these echo chambers exist where people can just connect with other people around the world in their same beliefs, and they don't have to communicate with people they disagree with, so they can just continue to grow in their beliefs. And it just continues to radicalize them and push them even further one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure. And I know social media, I don't think has played a part in increasing political violence, but it has absolutely played a part in increasing public awareness of political violence. I'm sure that without social media, like, half of America probably wouldn't have known about Charlie Kirk dying. But because of social media, and especially because of the video of him being shot, being put on Twitter or X, it penetrates much deeper into the general populace than it would previously.
So that actually is about to be my next question is, when it came to the Charlie Kirk situation, how did the media that you followed take an outlet from it? Like, what do you think the perspectives were, and what do you think you took out of it?
I know a lot of the media outlets that I consume, most of them were just kind of, they made light of the situation, which is not something that I entirely agree with, but also it can be fun to poke fun at people that you disagree with, even in the most tragic of circumstances. But I feel like generally most media outlets that I saw said, like, hey, this guy was bad, but also killing him was bad.
Yeah, that's a lot of the media outlets I saw did a similar thing. They were like, especially ones on the left, were like, hey, we disagree with his beliefs, but political violence isn't the answer. But then you get to, like, the right and more right-wing media, and they were calling it, like, an act of terrorism, and this is an attack on Christianity and conservative values, and I think, no, it was an attack on him specifically, which you could maybe say was an attack on the movement, but it's not, like, a widespread thing. It was this lone individual who just hated what he was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel like a lot of the right-wing media turned him into somewhat of a martyr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you guys know that Erica Kirk and her children were not at the event?
Oh, I actually heard that they so were.
I heard they were too.
It was found out later that her and her children were not at the event.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Intriguing.
And that's a play of fake news. What do you think about that?
That's very scary. Because
Yeah.
we both thought they were there.
Yeah, we both did absolutely think we were there, or they were there,
Yeah.
and
And if that's not true, then
yeah,
ooh.
that's a work of some masterful propaganda
Yeah.
from the administration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My next question, sorry.
Have you seen the picture of J.D. Vance motorboating Erica Kirk?
Oh, yeah. What do you think about the current Trump administration?
I think there's a a lot of things I do disagree with that they're doing, but there are some things that I'm not completely opposed of. There's some things, like, a lot of the broader ideas aren't terrible with cutting government and immigration reform. I just think the way they're going about it is a little too brash, a little too, like, they're not thinking it through as much as they should.
I will also say that there are parts of the Trump administration that I agree with, independently of Trump himself, like his protectionist tariffs. I also think that protectionism is a better way to run an economy than with free trade, but also I think that that has to come with a degree of workers' rights that the current administration isn't giving. And also beyond that, just some of the stuff that the administration has done is absolutely heinous. Funding ICE through the government shutdown while SNAP wasn't funded was insane, because SNAP has been previously funded during government shutdowns. I think that that was just a bargaining chip that Trump was using, of starving the populace, which in the current political climate, holy shit, that's a bad idea. That's good. That's the kind of shit that causes revolutions.
Going back to the tariffs, I think it's funny that we both disagree with tariffs, but for the exact opposite reasons. Because I come at it from a free market point of view. I'm like, this is terrible for the free market economy, but at least we can agree that blanket tariffs are bad.
Yeah, and I think that alienating our allies is the worst possible idea ever. Oh
Yeah.
my god, who let this man be president?
What do you guys think about Trump potentially being our president in 2028 if he has someone else run and he's the VP and then that person steps down? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think that can happen, because to be vice president, you have to be eligible to be president.
Yeah.
And I remember in 2020, there was a lot of talk about, oh, what if Obama's the VP? But I don't think that's constitutionally allowed.
Yeah, it was, I can't remember, I think it was the 12th Amendment that said you can't be eligible for vice president unless you're eligible for president. That said, I know there have been talks about another constitutional amendment to make it so that Trump can run for a third term. I don't know if that's just more of what the MAGA movement was built on, which is just rage-baiting liberals, or if that's a serious consideration. But I think even the prospect of a third Trump administration terrifies me, and the rhetoric that they've been using, even saying they're joking about a third administration, the fact that they're even making those jokes is scary.
What do you think about some of the White House being torn down currently?
I mean, I'm not too informed on, like, the legal proceedings that surround it and what processes have to go through, but I mean, they're building this ballroom, and the White House needs, like, an area to do these large ceremonies. They've been doing it on the lawn for years, so I don't disagree with the extension by itself, but if there is, like, legal proceedings that aren't being followed, then that's where I would probably not agree with it.
Yeah, I personally, hot take, but there shouldn't be a special house for the president, especially one that's so palatial in nature. That said, this is far from the only extension. Even in recent memory, Obama added a basketball court. The one thing that I will say in the positive about Trump is that he's paying for this extension out of his own pocket rather than with American taxpayer dollars. But I still think that a ballroom just makes the White House even more palatial.
Yeah, and they're destroying the people's house. What do you think about that?
I think that the idea of it being the people's house in the first place was just a lie. But I think, I don't know. I think the White House is a monument to the oppression of the people by the ruling class.
I mean, in a way, it is kind of the people's house. The president is the only elected official who gets votes from all across the country. It's the only nationwide office, and it is the head of state and the head of government, which most countries have two separate ones. So it is the head of the executive branch of government. That being said, should we give more power to the legislative branch and give, like, the Speaker of the House his own house? Maybe, but I think it is the people's house.
Is there anything else you'd like to discuss?
Shoot, I could go on a rant about the president, just as a position.
Just as a position?
Yeah, I don't think that there should be an executive branch separate from the legislative branch.
Why not?
If you look at a lot of the parliamentary systems, especially in Europe, they go through a lot more government shutdowns and collapses, but they tend to be more, not necessarily more stable, but more democratic than a presidential system.
Do you guys wish there were more political parties?
Absolutely.
I think so. I think I wouldn't be opposed to it because in both parties there's a lot of leniency. People are either like, I'm more familiar with the Republican view, but I know it's the same in the left side of the aisle. But there's like hard right, middle right, and then there's like moderate centrists, and they all have to lump and form coalitions together. Whereas if it was a multi-party system, there would have to be multiple parties, and they would have to coalition together, but people would have a better voice for their own specific interests.
Yeah, I completely agree. The two parties that we have now are just coalitions, but they're a little more set in stone than the coalition in, say, the British Parliament, which is made up of multiple smaller parties. But I think that also this two-party system doesn't allow for coalitions to be built outside of the standard coalitions that we already have, you know?
Yeah, and that's because of the first past the post system, where you have one winner take it all, and people who get 25% of the vote or a third of the vote don't get a seat ever, even though they're getting large portions of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why in Europe you have proportional representation, and that's allows these multi-party coalitions to come about. But that's probably will never happen in the U.S. because
Unless we get a new constitution.
unless we get a new constitution.
Which I'm an advocate for a new constitution. We've had one constitution since 1789.
Mm-hmm.
France has had, I think, 17 in that time, and France isn't a picture of stability. But even Spain, who most people think of as rather stable, has had 6 to 8 constitutions in the same amount of time.
They have gone through multiple forms of government, and they did have a dictatorship for the longest time. But, I mean, that's why we have amendments, though.
Yeah, but we also haven't amended the Constitution since 1992.
No, and we haven't had any substantial amendments since, like, the 60s.
Yeah, and the fact that the Bill of Rights is separate from the Constitution, it's just amendments to the Constitution, rather than being written into the Constitution itself, is abhorrent.
I would probably disagree with that, because you can still amend it, and you can still go back on amendments, like we saw in the 20s with the reversal of Prohibition. There's still ways to get around it, and it's still treated as a similar function of the Constitution. So I think it helps. It allows for us to be more stable in these other countries, so that we don't continually fall into cycles of change and continually are amending. We have stable guidelines that our country abides by.
I think that cycles of change is natural to humans, though, and I think that's the point of democracy, is so that government can change with the whims of the nation. So, yeah, we might see a shift from far-right nationalism to far-left socialism and then back, but if that's what the people want, that's what the people should get. I'm reminded of the Latin phrase "vox populi, vox Dei." The voice of the people is the voice of God.
And I think if it becomes such a national movement and so prevalent, then there still is ways to amend the Constitution. You need just a supermajority, and if there is enough of a swing, that will happen. It isn't plausible that it'll happen, but it's not impossible either.
And then I have one last question for you guys. What is your definition of tolerance? You can take a little bit to think about it, too.
I don't know if there's like one specific definition. It might be a little long, but I think it'd be just hearing out people you disagree with before you jump to conclusions, and just talking with them and hearing their viewpoints so you can better understand them and understand what their viewpoints are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a large part of tolerance is that not jumping to conclusions, but it's also, just treating people like people despite anything about them, despite their race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, political ideology, all of that. Like, I think tolerance is just seeing people as people.
Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming together and